MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey, hey! Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF. I'm Guy. That's John. If you're watching this on YouTube Live, that's great. Great to have you. Hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that. I think we're what's the sub number at here? We almost to 17,000. I think is what we're looking at here on the YouTube.
Right around the corner, Guy.
Yep.
Right
We are 64 away from 17,000. So let's get there, everybody.
I don't like people making fun of my internet here on the chat. I pay top dollar for 1 gigabyte, the fastest humanly possible to get. And it typically is pretty good, but sometimes no issues. My TV's never buffer when I'm watching. I'm a streamer now. YouTube TV, Amazon Prime, no issues.
Yeah. Yep.
Every once in a while, the internet on what we do pisses me off, but you know, it is what it is.
I saw a thread by like a TV, like a guy who's been like a long time TV kind of, expert. I don't know if he's done like in-home entertainment type stuff for people over the years or whatever, but his thing was like, the media has done the public a disservice by not really covering how the fact that streaming is inferior. And in the long term, streaming will start to cost more, like streaming, your YouTube TVs and that kind of thing. And it's not as reliable as cable is.
As someone that's now had YouTube TV,
but you've made the dive. You tell me.
Yeah, I've had it for a couple of weeks. I not only think it's superior, I see no difference. And I've yet to. I haven't noticed anything, and I get all the channels.
Yeah, I don't know. He thinks that long term it'll be more expensive. It won't be any cheaper, but it won't be as reliable. Because sometimes I'll see like YouTube service interruptions, that kind of stuff. But that happens with cable too. So I don't really. Yeah. I don't really know.
Well, I wouldn't dispute that prices will go up over time. That one's a lock. Yeah. But the other thing is like part of the reason I did it was my cable bill Comcast in Walnut Creek peaked at $295. And it was like, this is
including the internet, right?
Yeah, the internet, the cable, the whole thing. The boxes, you just pay extra money for boxes.
Right.
I don't know what my number is on YouTube TV, but I have it on multiple televisions. I'll have it on my computer. I don't know if there's a number. I think I can stream it as many places as I want.
I after you told me you got it, I went and did some Googling. I think it said like 6. Does that sound right? Like YouTube?
Yeah. Well, 6 is a lot.
Yeah,
right.
Like 6 one-time devices at one time.
So if you think about it, if you wanted to do the same for Comcast, the boxes, I guess you can actually get smart TVs and download the app. Yeah, that's what I did.
But I don't know how well that works. Is that just as good?
Yeah, it works pretty well. Okay. Yeah, I've seen. I think this. I would guess he's a little older gentleman. I do think he's underestimating. Now, if you get the lowest internet, yeah, you might have some issues. But I think in modern day society, if you're not getting the highest internet, that's a you problem.
Well, but I do think it's still the majority of the population does not have 500 gigabits download speeds. That's right. The majority of the population. There's a reason, because I asked a TV guy the other day. I was like, I know this is going to be a stupid question, but having a game, like, why is it that having a game on ABC, NBC, or CBS is still so much more highly rated than on cable? And he's like, well, you're right. It's an obvious answer, because way more people still have those channels but don't have the cable channels. As crazy as it sounds, one of the reasons those are higher rated is because a lot of people everybody has those channels.
My pushback to him would be, then I would guess that the demo of the channel 10, 13, ABC, CBS, then they demand having that channel skews higher, right?
Well, there's no question. But I mean, again, the question was just, why is there some trick as to why those things rate higher? And he's like, nope, because more people than you think have like bunny ears or whatever is required.
And that makes perfect sense.
And I would imagine you're right. Everyone will have 500 gigabit download speeds, but the majority of the population just doesn't right now.
Well, if you think about, like, did you see there
when somebody who doesn't have that asks, what's the best thing for me if I don't want interruptions?
There was a headline the other day that, like, by 2024, podcast revenue will be up to like $4 billion.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that.
And if you think about it, I bet right now the difference between radio revenue and podcast revenue still dwarf right. There's the pie chart is still heavily within radio. Yet I don't know any person like in our demos that don't consume. I run into so many people. If you just start a conversation, they listen to something, they're like, how you doing? Like, what do you listen to? I'll podcast. It's like, what podcast you listen to? Oh, a ton. Like it's, and these people are all 45-ish and younger. Like it's clear where everything's skewing. Now, you still need 20 years for that generation to then be the majority generation, right? Because still a lot of older people listen to radio. But, as Alex Mather, who ran The Athletic, once said, we're going to bleed them dry. And while he was a little off, not because I don't know a soul who reads a newspaper, but like obviously Athletic didn't quite wipe them out. They were ultimately purchased by a newspaper. I do feel pretty confident that podcast is going to bleed them dry. Podcast incorporating with YouTube and other, like it's not.
Well, there's just no.
Yeah, it's not a fair fight.
There are some things that you can see into the future, and I would say that's.
And I think Mather was onto something with newspapers. Like I don't believe when you and I are 65, we will know a soul who gets a newspaper delivered to our house.
Just think of it like really fundamentally, right? Like now that information moves as quickly as it does, it doesn't make sense for me to read information that was written at 10 p.m. the night before when it's 1 o'clock. Just from like a sports standpoint, there are some games that go too late for their score to get into the newspaper. Now imagine waking up in the morning going, what was the score of the Warriors game last night? Well, can't find out till 2 o'clock today when the next edition comes out, right? Yeah. Like just on a fundamental level. Like
you lost
too quickly. Well, not like it evolved. I don't think there was. To me, there's a difference between like there were tactical mistakes versus it was just impossible for the printed word to beat the digital word. It's just that there wasn't an end game. I don't think there was.
It wasn't like he put his army in the wrong spot.
Yeah, they didn't make a tactical mistake. That was not going to be. Once the bullet came along, the bow and arrow, there was no like, if we market the bow and arrow right, oh, baby, we'll show the handgun or run for its money. Like, nah, it couldn't. It couldn't.
Well, part of it, right, is why do you have to have it in by 9? I could never deliver the newspapers at 5 the way we have to print them out.
We got to print them. We got to go to the printer, and then some kid on a bike's got to ride them through the neighborhood. I would like the future where the kid on a bike just throws cell phones at every door.
Think about this. Newspapers depended to their success. Basically, every single human back in like the 60s and 70s first job. What'd you do? Deliver newspapers.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Things change. That's all.
No, it was a good run. I used to love reading a good newspaper.
So did I. I was at a restaurant the other day. It said computers and what's the dog called where it's a helpful dog?
Support dog, animal.
Non-support animal. Like you get this part of the patio. Like just you're over here in the shitty part of the patio because people with computers just sit there for hours. Then I just thought, what if I'm reading the newspaper on my computer? I can't sit in the good area, but if I had a newspaper, nobody would kick me out,
When we were flying back from Nashville, heavy delays because of a crazy rainstorm. And as we were on the plane getting delayed from Nashville to Dallas, this guy's like, yeah, they're often, because of crazy, just rainstorms that last an hour, but delay everything in Dallas and things always get pushed back.
Yeah.
Well, by the time we finally got to, Phoenix International, a dog had obviously been delayed, wherever. So the dog couldn't make it. And, on a stretch where it just sat down and took a huge dump because the emotional support animal, there was nowhere for it to go to the bathroom.
They don't take it into the bathroom at the airplane?
Well, it was walking, I don't know. As Joe Rogan had a good point because he was talking about, he had this family friend who's a teacher and there's a furry at the school and the furry means you identify as an animal and they put a litter box. And Rogan was like, I don't think people realize if we could teach animals to go to the bathroom in the toilet, obviously we all would. And I was like, I've never thought about it like that, but he's right. Like you don't want to have your dog go shit on someone else's grass. They would just take him to the bathroom, right?
Have you ever seen a dog when they're taking a shit?
It's their weakest moment. So
they look at you. They make eye contact with you because they're counting on you to look out for them. But if they had a door they could close and lock, they would just be looking at their cell phone like the rest of us.
I know. Bring an iPad. Where are you going? Where are you going, Roofie? I'll be back in 10.
Just looking at the adoptions. You know, I don't recognize anybody.
Meanwhile, the furry's going on the litter box. Julie's like, there's a bathroom right here. It's like
you don't have to do it this way.
No,
they stole my toys while I was in the fucking litter box.
Yeah, if the cat could, it would.
Also, if you listen to the podcast, go there, give us 5 stars, give us a review. We appreciate that. If you give us 2 stars and a review, we'll probably read that one too in the mailbag, but we prefer 5. We really appreciate that. We are sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka, unofficially the official drink of
Aaron Judge.
I was going to say Mike Pereira.
Oh, yeah.
But of Aaron Judge's next contract, definitely the official drink of Aaron Judge's next contract. Yeah, man, Tito's Handmade Vodka. Where right now you can go and get a bottle wherever you want, and you're going to get the highest quality, but you're not going to pay the highest price because at Tito's, John, you're not paying for the bottle. They're not painting it by hand. They're not frosting the bottle. There's not some multi-million-dollar design company that did it. It's the same label Tito made in 1994 when he invented the shit. And now he's just producing the great vodka all over the world.
I think when I think of Tito and I think of Tito's and I think of Tito beverage, I think of
And you think of Tito's daily too.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. And that's what Tito's did. Great product, very simple. Masses love it. #1 vodka in America. Like a rocket ship. Everywhere you go, if they're drinking vodka, they're drinking Tito's. I don't care, from California to New York, down to Bama, up to Seattle. I mean, everywhere. That's why they're #1 in America. They've been supporter of this podcast now 2 years running. We feel honored and grateful, humbled, and just we're users. So we were also can't wait to have another drink of Tito's.
That's right. Over 20 years ago, Tito's made it. 25-year anniversary now. He started by slanging it he was just giving it away. Someone said, "Hey, Tito, can you come give your vodka away at a fundraiser?" And Tito said, "Sure, I'll do that," because that's the kind of guy he is. Tito's company still big fundraisers. And people started loving it. It started to spread and spread and spread. And now it's the unanimous judge choice double gold medal winner at the World Spirits Competition, the Chairman's Trophy for the world's best vodka tonic. For recipes and more, visit Tito'sVodka.com. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. How about the little background there, huh?
Oh, sweet.
We are also brought to you by Manscaped, everybody. Manscaped, Brian Dayballs. Keep them game day ready at manscaped.com with the promo code HAM1, ham and the number 1. You get 20% off and free shipping.
Lawnmower 4.0s, weed whackers, ball preservers, ball deodorant. They have it all. But I think what they're most known for is right there. The Lawnmower 4.0, LED lighting, USB power cord. The trimming is incredible. The smooth trim. It's not loud. And I think most importantly for those of us, our generation guy, that way back in the day, you had to have a plug. So you had to plug in a little something and hopefully it'd wrap to the toilet, or sometimes you'd have to grab like a trash can. This thing's wireless. How do you beat it?
That's right. Wireless, the 4.0 body trimmer and weed whacker nose and ear hair trimmer feature the proprietary advanced skin safe technology to protect your delicate parts. Both are waterproof. So that's the other thing that's great with having it be wireless. So now you can keep scaping even as the weather's changing. In addition to shaving, you can completely upgrade your shower routine as well with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo plus Conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. So go to Manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code HAM1. That's HAM numeral 1. What's H? Hollow, Alpha, Mary 1. I don't know what H is really, but 20% off free shipping, Manscaped, when you use HAM1. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine.
You ever see the new Top Gun?
No, almost watched it. The guy next to me was watching on the plane today. I said, "How was it?" He said, "Second time I've watched it today." I was like, "Damn."
A lot of time on his hands.
Yeah. He said, "It's good." Is it good?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
I wonder, did he buy it? How did he watch it on the plane? iPad?
Watch it. No, it was a free movie.
got free movies on Southwest. Top Gun, Maverick.
I told you.
Well, I knew they had. I knew they had free content, but it's usually like Braveheart, The Matrix #1. It's like I didn't know they. I mean, that's Maverick. That's
The Internship.
Yeah, I mean, play the hits.
Henry
Elf.
says Scott. Hilo says Brad. I just read online. It says hotel for H. I don't know. Hilo. I like Hilo.
Call signs.
Yeah. Hilo Victor Foxtrot.
I actually I was on our page, and sometimes the algorithm just throws you all sorts of things. One of the videos, and I clicked on it, was pirate ship mistakes, what's a
Building?
Ship carrying, like a bunch of stuff, like the carrying ships.
Okay.
They thought it was
Cargo?
they were gonna rob a cargo ship.
Yeah.
Turned out it was an aircraft carrier, but it just they had taken like a cargo type ship, so you couldn't quite tell. The pirates gave up pretty quick.
That's the case of mistaken identity.
Yeah, I don't think it was obvious. Like there weren't guns hanging off, so they thought it was like a cargo ship or something. They did not think it was a Spanish aircraft carrier, and they lost quick.
I've stumbled into a few of those YouTubes. It'll have like 13 million views. It'll be like the most powerful jet engine ever created. I'm like, oh, I'll watch this for 8 minutes. And these videos it'll be the same deal. Like, the worst pirate attempt takeover ever. How many? I bet that thing had 7 million views.
Whatever ton. I love a good, like, the 17 craziest alligator attacks. Like, in.
All right, John, let's talk some ball. For those of you listening to this podcast or not watching it live, it is Thursday afternoon. Thursday Night Football is tonight. Most of you consuming this by the numbers, Thursday Night Football is probably already done, but whatever. Here's a little Thursday night trivia question for you. But this trivia question works after Thursday night because the football team is entering this game. What are they? 1-4? They're
1-4. Yep.
1-4. So even if Riverboat Ron wins tonight, he'll be 2-4. Ron Rivera, John.
I think the Pirates should attack Riverboat.
There's no secret attack they're going to get from them. What do you think? I don't know the best way to ask this. I'll just say this to you. Do you know how many Coach of the Year awards Ron Rivera has?
I mean, the way you said it, he feels like he has more than one.
That's correct. He has two. Do you know how many winning seasons he has?
Well, the only reason I would guess the number would be lower because when David Tepper was trying to justify the disaster that was his football team, he kind of took some shots at Ron, basically saying they've never had back-to-back winning seasons. So I wonder if the Cam Newton era was probably a little more splashy than it was just some consistent powerhouse. So I would say winning seasons, I'll go with 4.
Close, but too high. The answer is 3. So this is year 12 as an NFL head coach. He has 2 Coach of the Year awards and 3 winning seasons. You're right. They've never had, he has never had back-to-back winning seasons. 12-4, 7-8, 15-1, 6-10, 11-5, 7-9. He is 91, 86-1 for his career going into Thursday Night Football. So he's 5 games over 500 going into Thursday Night Football. But I mean, think about those winning seasons. He never went 9-7. He went 12-4. He went 15-1. He went 11-5. So when he won big. But did
guess Cam Newton only make the playoffs 3 times, or did they make it one of the years they went like 8-8 or something?
Yeah. So they made it a year they went 7-8 and won 7-8-1
down year in the South,
and they won a playoff game that year. And then they made it another year.
Well, but Guy, you know why they won that playoff game? Because I remember watching it. Carson Palmer tore his ACL, and then whoever the backup was got hurt as well. So they played an Arizona Cardinal team who was awesome. And remember, Carson Palmer was going to win the MVP in
was it like Jeff Smoker? Who was the guy from
feels Michigan like late November or early December he tears ACL. And I'm pretty sure the guy that ended up starting that playoff game was Ryan Lindley.
Oh, Ryan Lindley.
From San Diego State, who actually I just saw on my timeline within the last week. They're like, welcome our new quarterback coach. San Diego State added a quarterback coach, Ryan Lindley, like in the middle of the season. So weird shit going on. A lot of different
It's been a bad year for them. Been a bad year for them. So yeah, there you go. Those are the he made the playoffs another time with a sub 500 or sub 500 record.
You know what's funny is So sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Well, thinking about San Diego State, the punter who got cut right before the season.
Yeah.
Romo dropped a line the other day. Like, I think they have like 8 punts on the season, the Bills. Like, when they blow people out, they don't punt. They've had multiple games this season when they don't punt. So you could argue as the punter as necessary for them. Easy decision. Looking back to part ways.
I guess, but it's possible that they would be punting more, I guess. I mean, you're going to get to the playoffs and it might matter.
Yeah,
right?
You're going to need a punter for sure.
And it's going to be like, everyone know what they're doing? Like, not really, coach. We never do this. So
I would imagine anyone who's coached longer than a decade and definitely 12 plus seasons, 3 winning seasons total is a record, right? On the low end.
It's got to be. Maybe there's someone out there who won it once and that was their only winning season, but
what would you guess Andy is at like 24 seasons?
Winning seasons?
18.
Man, it might be like 20. Is it 24? Is that the number of winning of overall seasons he's coached?
Feels a little high. He started in 99, so it might be 23. Do you think Andy? Well, he does. I was going to say more in Kansas City. I mean, I don't think he's ever had a losing season in Kansas City. Kansas City, 11-5, 9-7, 11-5, 12-4, 10-6, 12-4, 12-4, 14-2, 12-5. He's 4-1.
What did you just name? Like 9 years?
Yeah. Well, he's only won in Kansas City. In Philly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 14. So
5.
He underachieved in Philly.
Yeah. But he did go to 3 conference championship games?
5.
5 conference championship games.
Yeah. Do you think he'll ever have a losing season as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy?
No. And even if Patrick Mahomes has to miss multiple games.
His record, he's developing he is over 700 winning percentage in Kansas City. That's pretty good.
Wow.
I mean, what's Ron's winning percentage? Like 400?
Well, no, it's barely over 500 because he's had those 3. Because he's rarely 3-13, and his good years have been so far above 500 that he's still 5 games over 500, even though he's had 9 losing seasons and 3 winning seasons.
Well, think about this guy.
This year.
15-1. That's 14. That's plus 14. So you could have 5, 6, and 10 seasons, right? And still, kind of be right at the balance.
Right. Like you could have 4, 6, and 10 seasons, and you're basically even.
-2, yeah.
So crazy.
In fairness, 15-1 is an incredible football season.
Incredible year. Yeah, it's incredible. But I heard Michael Lombardi make the point, like they were bad last year. They came in this year, didn't fire us, didn't change a single coach. So he's basically saying players just got to play better.
#loyalty, bro.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for that too. All right, so there's your Thursday night or Friday. You can use that Friday. You can use that this weekend. That stat is going to hold, I think, this year, John. I think that stat's going to hold this year.
I think Kyle's below the Mendoza line.
No, he's 500.
Oh, he is?
I think Shanahan hit 500 with that big win over the big chance for Shanahan to get over 500 for his career, right?
No, 42-44. So
are you counting? Is that count postseason games?
That's just postseason. He's a winner, 4-2. Regular season,
42-44. So it must be that if he's 4-2 and he's 2 games under regular season, then it just 500 if you include the postseason, right?
He's at 86 games. I do think he's got to find a way once he gets to that 100 to be, like 55-45, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
You can't just be like 50-50. He's good.
But
start racking up games.
But you're not giving him the playoffs. He'd be 500 if you count the playoffs.
He's 46-46 if you count the playoffs. But I think historically most people separate the two. Yeah. Don't you? Or no?
Yeah. I do think historically you separate the two, yeah.
Because like Bill Belichick is chasing whatever Shula, that's just regular season wins.
Which has never made sense to me. You won the game. You played the game. You win more games by going to the playoffs. Now you could argue there's more playoff games, blah, blah, blah. But there's more regular season games too. Just one, I guess.
Kyle's got a ways to go to catch Bill at 292 and 146.
How about John Madden's win percentage? Does he have a shot at that?
I don't think so, no.
Remember that stat?
Did you see the video or the locker rooms John's building Cal Poly?
I just saw that it was a story, yeah.
Incredible.
It's a lot of, what is it, like 20 million or how much?
I mean, it looks, I would say every bit of equivalent is like Alabama, LSU, or Georgia. Like, honestly, it feels like that level for Cal Poly. Very honored, lucky to have him. Even his wife said when he got his first job, like in the NFL or college job, he kind of just shunned everyone with the Eagles. And then he got fired and he kind of needed people back at Cal Poly and they gave him a home. So he always felt like he felt a soft spot for them. And he probably needed to give some money away for tax reasons with the, money
wealth
moving
distribution.
Yeah.
You wonder why didn't he do that before he passed, but maybe that had something to do with it. All right, John, coming up this weekend, the 49ers play the Atlanta Falcons. And Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, I tell you, this team, I said it the other day, I know it doesn't fire you up, but they've lost to the Bears and the Broncos. So take no opponent lightly.
They lost the Atlanta Falcons the year they went to the Super Bowl. Remember? Julio Jones walk-off?
Yeah, I do remember.
Struck that ball over.
What was the guy? Oh, Don
Meredith?
No. When Dre Greenlaw made the play, Dan Buns. That was the anti-Dan Buns play.
That was the reason they were in that position.
That's right. Rare advantage for the 49ers. We think rare. We'll see. But there's one big reason why this is a must-win game for the 49ers, because they don't get many chances like this.
Well, think about next week. They're at a huge disadvantage because usually it's like, well, who's our quarterback? Who's their quarterback? Next week it's Jimmy Garoppolo and their quarterback's Patrick Mahomes. So that's disadvantage 49ers. Advantage Andy and Patrick. Like they're going back-to-back weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo versus Baker Mayfield, advantage 49ers. Last week was clear. I mean, Jimmy's in a different universe than Baker. Now, I don't know where you stand on this. Mariota is clearly just a more even keel human being, but I would say he's a better player currently today than Baker is. Now, Baker's highs a couple years ago were better than anything Mariota did, but what I saw out of Mariota against Tampa, and just watching the Falcons a little bit this year, is a better player than Baker. I would rather have Mariota on the field for my team than Baker Mayfield. That being said, he's still a bottom. Part of it is just, the first 15, 16 quarterbacks are pretty good. He's a bottom 7, 8 quarterback in the NFL. And as we've talked about, Jimmy's squarely probably smack dab in the middle, about 16, but he's better than Mariota. So the Niners have a better passing quarterback than the Atlanta Falcons. And they're missing, a guy that I don't know if he's a quote unquote star yet, but Kyle Pitts be out.
Better.
Ridley suspended.
I would say I would rather play Baker in a single game than play Marcus Mariota in a single game, just because of his element of athleticism.
Who would you rather have on your team?
Yeah, I'd rather have Marcus Mariota on my team.
Yeah.
And I think their coach, they just Carolina just fired their coach. Atlanta offensively actually feels like, they're band-aiding a few things because, like you said, Pitts is out. But I mentioned this on the last pod. When you watch Atlanta, if you go back and watch the Atlanta Bucs game, and they were down 21-0, but clearly Arthur Smith he knows what he's a smart offensive coach. I think that's clear when you watch them. They're creative. They try to make the most of Mariota, but there are limitations. And one of the main limitations is just the straight drop back accuracy game with him is just not, when I say drop back, I just mean the passing game. It's a lot of it, pistol, play action, whatever. But they miss throws in their passing game, right? They're just inconsistent in their passing game.
I think the difference, because two NFC South teams that are not going to win a lot of games, going to be drafting really high. It does feel like Arthur Smith is a legitimate offensive NFL guy, right? He's an offensive NFL guy. Is he a good head coach? Time will tell. Also does feel a little bit, though, are they kind of stuck in that Panthers? Mariota's a little bit better than anything the Panthers have had, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, but ultimately they're never going to suck that much. What are they kind of in no man's land? How do they ever kind of got to get lucky? Last year they drafted the kid from Cincinnati, Ritter. To me, he's a backup.
Yeah.
This year, clearly there's a lot worse teams than them. They're, what would you say they're trending toward? 5-6 wins, probably drafting 8th, not 2nd.
But to me, that can be okay. The 3 best young quarterbacks in the league are Herbert, Allen, and Mahomes, and none of those guys were the first quarterbacks. Were any of them the second quarterbacks taken? I don't think so in their drafts, right? So,
but what's the chances that you end up with a guy like that?
No,
right?
I understand, but I'm just saying if you're drafting 8th and you have a little bit of, if you're drafting 8th and you have a good coach, a good offensive coach, then I think you'll have a shot at getting somebody. But you're right. It's a tough spot.
You're saying their future is brighter in Carolina? I mean, Carolina fired the coach.
Well, I mean,
October 7th.
Like I would say Pitts and Drake London both look good. Got to be healthy. Both are now Panthers have good receivers too, but the Falcons receivers are younger. So I would give them like that's partly. I mean, Carolina's defense is better, right? But
So basically, if you could take the Panthers,
I do think they might have their coach, so they're ahead of that. They're ahead from that standpoint.
But the problem is, you know, this is year 2. Like we could be by year 4 here in a couple of years, and he's like never won more than 7 games. It's hard.
Yeah, no, you can definitely get mired. I saw Josh McCown has started like contributing to the Underdog podcast. He's doing like a video podcast, and it made me think like, is David like clearly the Texans wanted to hire McCown a couple times and passed on him a couple times, so now he's like getting he's going to start talking, you know, and I wonder if David Tepper would hire him because he's going to watch Josh McCown videos, and there's going to be like someone else tried to hire him but didn't have the balls to.
Are you sure though? Because it feels like Tepper just picks up the Charlotte Observer.
That's true. Could be that. I'm just saying he's going to want to go outside the box, be a smart guy. You're right. He did yell at the newspaper columnist. But anyway, just an aside.
He's more likely to read the Charlotte Observer than like, hey man, I saw your takes on YouTube. Fucking incredible.
Yeah. they got suggested to me while I was watching some shorts. Jimmy Garoppolo right now is 5 touchdowns and 1 interception, which is an outrageous ratio, right? Last year he was 20 touchdowns and 12 picks. So that's worse than 2 touchdowns for
does get credit for Debo breaking 3 tackles and juking out.
That's what he always does. Like to me, the 5 is not the number; it's the 1. The 1 is the number with Garoppolo. The 1 is the number with Garoppolo, and he's started 3 games. So if you told me how many games are left, they've 3-2, right?
They're 3-2, so there's 12 more games left. There's 17-game season.
12 games left. So if that would mean at this rate, 1 pick every 3 starts, he throws 5 total interceptions. That seems unlikely, but
yeah. Well, he's got a multiple pick game in him.
Yeah, but but that's the thing. Every quarterback does. Every quarterback has a multi.
When we overreacted, listen, that's unfair. When we reacted to the Denver game, because we can just react 2 games. And I think sometimes like overreaction. Well, your overreaction if you're saying fire a guy, cut a guy, or extend a guy after 1 game. But if you get excited or angry or, up or down on the game, that is okay because you are just reacting to the event. And the Denver game, remember, we were throwing like, is this guy going to get to 20 touchdowns? And on this pace, if he could get to the high 20s, I mean, last year they made the conference championship. And would he throw 24 touchdowns, 22, 23? If somehow on God's green earth he could get to 30 touchdowns.
20. Last year it was 20 regular season.
Jesus. I guess he missed a couple starts, huh? But still, if he could get to like 29 touchdowns, that would take a little burden off the run game. And it would just make them more explosive offense. And to me, it would, less than the run game, it would take a burden off the defense, which is, last time I checked, missing some players.
Yeah. So you would rather, if you said, I can tell you one number and you can predict the Niners season off of this, Jimmy's touchdowns or Jimmy's interceptions, you'd rather know his touchdown number?
Would I rather get to pick it or would I get to know it?
Well, what's more telling? Because if you told me he throws 29 touchdowns, I'd go, okay, he probably throws 12 to 13 picks, and maybe that's okay. But if you told me he throws 7 interceptions, which feels unlikely, but if you told me that, I'd be like, how are they not good?
Yeah, I think you would choose the smaller interception number for sure. But is playing it safe all year long enough for them to win? Well, it's not. It's the thing that I talked about. They're going to play too many explosive quarterbacks to play it safe. You can't. He's not going to be able to have like threw a touchdown, threw a pick against Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and be like, yeah, they won.
But I mean, the Bucks have played some of those games, right? Low scoring games.
That might be a bad example because their defenses are both.
Kansas City, the Rams next, the Chargers.
I would say one thing about the Chargers: they do score some points whenever I'm looking up. They do some weird shit and they might lose, but like even last game it was 30-28, right? I mean, you're not
Cardinals.
Their offense is really sputtered, but Hopkins is coming back right next week.
Saints, Dolphins, Bucks.
Didn't you say
Seahawks.
and Marquis Brown statistically has had a good season?
Marquis
Listen,
Brown, they are throwing him the ball nonstop, and he's catching it. He's got like over 70% of his targets are catches.
Well, you would say that like once Hopkins comes back, assuming he's just solid still, Hopkins, Marquis, and I mean, I watched some of that Eagle game. I mean, Ertz still okay. And Kyler just he missed a pass late in the game. I had a buddy in the NFL who must have been like writing up players and just sent me the pass. It was second down on the drive where he slid and spiked the ball in that disaster. Ertz wide open. Would have got him in field goal range, like even much closer. And Kyler just fucking sails it way over. Which
was it like clean pocket or was he on the move or what was the deal?
Complete clean, just type Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, just drills, it's like a 35-yard throw, but it's probably like a 16-yard gain. Kyler, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal in his prime jumping wouldn't have tipped the ball. But in fairness, the one thing is like Jimmy might make that miss too. Kyler is pretty bad. I would say right now, not trying to get ahead of ourselves, anything minimum 1-1 against the Cardinals is the minimum. This year.
0-2 last year. Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Bucks, Seahawks, Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals. So you'd say Falcons, then I'd say Saints, Seahawks. I would say Seahawks, but maybe you would disagree. Commanders, and maybe Dolphins. You have a better quarterback in those games.
Matthew Stafford's resume speaks for itself. He's been a much better player than Jimmy. He's been atrocious this season, and Jimmy's already outplayed him once. Did you see yesterday?
Jimmy has Jimmy's defense, though. That's part of it, right? Stafford has to play Jimmy's defense.
The injury report, we were talking the other day about the Rams can't afford. Kupp and Donald, both foot injuries, like their season would be over if those guys miss games.
Wow. So they missed practice on Wednesday?
They missed practice on Wednesday. I saw Kupp probably going to play, but, it wasn't just like, vet rest day. It's like, no, they have foot injuries.
Jimmy threads crazy needles and will also miss a wide open post. Yeah, Jimmy, he just throws some 50-50 balls on slants. Not a lot of guys throw 50-50 balls like 50-50 balls usually means it's in the air high.
What throw Jimmy does not have is just like the back shoulder stop throw. Like Brady, Manning, got the high-level guys made a career of.
Well, because no one's going deep. The DB's not worried about it. Don't you have to be worried about the guy going deep for that throw to work?
Probably true, yeah.
I don't know. It's a good point. Like you don't really see that throw.
And if it does happen, you're like, oh, Jimmy was just way off, and a great play by Kittle or Ayuk
or Jennings. Because you said back shoulder, he does go back hip a lot.
Yeah.
On slants or whatever, he has thrown some tight windows, no question. He made, and there were a lot of clips of the L-22 going around the other day on the internet. He made some really good throws. He did the other day against the Panthers.
I know this. Jimmy has in the driver's seat of being potentially able to make himself some cash. I don't think anyone, if he had a great season and the Niners won, anyone's giving him some like $100 million contract again. But I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility to easily get some like 2 for 60, 45 guaranteed type thing, right?
Well, we talked about it on the podcast the other day, teams that were regretting not getting Garoppolo. And isn't it funny? It happens every year. You go through the list and you go, okay, who needs a quarterback? And it'll be one team. And then here we are 6 weeks later. It's like 6 teams. So you're right. All it takes, and everybody already went through one off season where they said, this season hasn't played out for Garoppolo yet, but everybody's already gone through the season when they try to band-aid it. Not all of these teams are going to be able to get quarterbacks. Are the Steelers going to be bad and then go into next year with Kenny Pickett as their starter? I don't know. I mean, Kenny's still got a lot of season left, so maybe he'll get better. But
I think Kenny Pickett's safe for a couple of years. You don't draft a guy number 20 and he doesn't get a couple of years.
Yeah, so they're just going to be bad again, or he'll be better? I don't know. I mean, what if they're so bad that they end up picking in the top 3 this year, which feels unlikely?
To me, the two teams, I think the Giants have some financial shit they got to deal with, but like Davis Mills I've watched he's kind of coming back to earth.
Yeah.
I think the Texans and the Giants, especially if they think they have a nucleus of like, another year of drafting a bunch of guys, would just be like, quote unquote, overpay, like that 2 for 60, or maybe give him a kind of fake 3-year deal at like $80 million. But it's like they're offering him $45 million guaranteed, or just some number that's really, really high, and he gets to be a lock starter.
Right. Because the one thing you know with him, even if you bring him in and you draft a quarterback in the second round, that guy is not going to take his job. That guy is not going to beat Jimmy out, right?
No chance.
And if for some crazy let's say Jimmy gets hurt, that guy comes in, plays 5 games and is good, you don't have to worry about Jimmy being on your bench. Like, he'll be fine.
Well,
right? He'll handle the situation well.
No matter, let's say this thing goes really well, and the Niners are a 12-win team, win the division, win a playoff game, or just maybe they lose in the playoffs in round 2 or 3, but it's not like Jimmy's good. What do they do? I think they got to compete for his services, right?
I think they do have to compete for his services. Yes, they might have to compete for his services, but part of that, you didn't even mention what is the recovery on Trey Lance like. Because remember, Jimmy didn't get traded because no one was 100% sure how his shoulder was going to recover from the surgery. Well, if you're the Niners, can you let Jimmy go until you're 100% sure that Trey Lance is fully recovered from his surgery?
Well, do you remember that Dak Prescott, who had a similar injury, they remember he was kind of hit or miss in that OTAs when Hard Knocks?
Yes,
it was like,
good point.
So, and that was not OTA. I mean, that was training camp, right? So I would imagine Dak Prescott did not participate in OTAs. Can the Niners afford to have a no OTA, just training camp, let Jimmy walk, Trey Lance just starts coming back off the injury? That seems kind of crazy.
Unknown how he's recovered and if he's any better as a player. But I will say this, the counter would be, well, they were prepared to go into as long as they know that he's healthy, they were prepared to go into this season with Trey. So shouldn't they be prepared to go into next season with Trey?
I think it immediately changes, though, after an injury and just some more time, which gets just more negative, gives you it makes you think a little more.
Yeah, I agree. Question. This comes from Barney. Hold on, where'd it go? How do I put this up? Can you see it? You're not seeing that, right?
No.
Barney gave us $17.50. I'm trying to put his goddamn question up here.
Canadian?
No, this looks American, John. But it's Barney Fubble says, McCaffrey, who would you like to see the Niners go after? There's been a lot of, now that the Panthers are without coach, a lot of talk about Christian McCaffrey, who I think has missed like 22 games the previous 2 seasons combined. I mean, it's a massive number, and he's very expensive. So the immediate joke was, well, obviously the Rams can afford him somehow. But McCaffrey to the Niners?
That's a no for me, Doug.
Yeah,
I think they need to allocate their resources on I just keep hammering those lines, guy.
Hammering the lines? You're talking about like...
I'm talking...
Because this guy's talking like a trade, I think, is what people...
Well, I'm not trading a 3rd or 4th round pick for a massive contract. If I'm doing that, I'm trading a pick for a guard or a defensive lineman. I saw some people like Brian Burns, the guy they drafted a couple years ago, Florida State. I'll be a little surprised if Tepper allows him to just trade their 3 or 4 young good players like DJ Moore. Like, wait, they're going to trade like their only good wide receiver? Like, is that just what you want to be doing right now when you got a lot of moving parts? I think you just kind of take a deep breath.
Well, yeah, I think you're right because you're going to play next year. Like, next year we'll be here when you hire a new coach in whatever, when they got a new coach, mid-January, late January, depending on, right? It's October, it's mid-October, November, December. It's going to be a whole new era of Panthers football in 3.5 months,
Well, think about this, like, and it's a natural reaction because, like, who can be had? And people list like their 4 sweet players: Derek Brown, Brian Burns, McCaffrey's kind of a throw-in. I think most even casual fans realize, like, he's kind of damaged goods at this point. DJ Moore. Well, let's just use the Lions as an example. Let's pretend Dan Campbell wasn't new; he was old, and he just got fired tomorrow. Would they trade Penei Sewell, right? Would they trade, like, could Hutchinson be had? Could Ahmad St. Brown be had? No, those are like, they have like 5 good players. Wouldn't you fucking keep them? Is that the point of sports? You just drafted a couple guys high or hit mid-round picks. Keep those players. I'll never go back. I'll never forget Harbaugh. Most teams would have been like, let's just get rid of some of these guys. No, they just kept them all. Even as they sucked, he got there and they won. That's best case. Chip's somewhat of an example. Showed up. There were some pieces in place. And the next year he made the playoffs.
Yeah.
With the Eagles. Like, I would trade nobody on McCaffrey. I'd be willing to trade if I was the Panthers, right? Get rid of that contract. None of the other highly drafted guys who are good. Like, yeah, DJ Moore, no, we're good. We're going to keep him around. Derek Brown, yeah, we kind of like him on our defensive line. Now, when the Niners eventually traded DeForest Buckner, they got back the 14th overall pick. So it's like, yeah, we're not just giving him to you. Like, yeah, we'll just take a 2 and a 3. Sweet. For you.
Let's talk about that, actually, since you mentioned DeForest Buckner in the 14th overall pick. The 49ers used that 14th overall pick in 2022 on Javon Kinlaw. It was the 4th year in a row that the 49ers took a lineman in the top 15 of the draft. Solomon Thomas, 3rd, 2017. 2018, Mike McGlinchey, 9th. 2019, Nick Bosa, 2nd. And 2022, Javon Kinlaw went 14th. For those of you watching, I have here the official practice report, injury report for the 49ers. Did not practice. Thursday's did not practice list. Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, okay? Emmanuel Mosley, Jimmy Ward, Trent Williams. None of that is breaking news to anybody. But of those guys, the Javon Kinlaw injury is the least surprising. When you go back to the draft, and we've talked about his knee before, look at this I found this old article, John. While no team failed Kinlaw's physical at the combine, NFL media's Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero reported that multiple teams flagged his knees, plural, as at risk of arthritis. Okay. Now, I don't, this is not a bust or not a bust conversation. Javon Kinlaw is going to try to continue his career, and who knows what comes next. But I think it's pretty clear at this point, the Niners, this has failed. The 14th overall pick on Javon Kinlaw. Now, he's coming into the year in which you're going to have to pick up a 5th-year option this offseason. But between Thomas, McGlinchey, Kinlaw, 3 out of 4, they hit Bosa. They have not drafted linemen well. Now, you could argue on McGlinchey, we could debate, right? He's been their starter at right tackle for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 5-year start at right tackle.
Well, blew out his quad and missed some time last year.
That's true. No, that's true. But my point is, like, he has at minimum, he's been a starter. Like Solomon Thomas was not even that.
Yeah. When he's healthy, he starts.
The problem with that one, though, is that the next pick was Colton Miller, who has been a much better tackle.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have not. Now they got Bosa, but they have not drafted this position well. And a big part of that was this Kinlaw pick. It's not that he was a hurt guy now who no one thought could be hurt. What some people worried about coming into the draft is what has turned out to be the problem with him, and they made a mistake.
Well, I'd have to ask one of my trainer buddies in the league, like, if this means the same thing. What I was told is teams had red flagged him for a degenerate knee, and I would guess either they're the same thing or they parallel each other. Degenerate knee turns into arthritis, pain, non-functional, right? And think about last year. People, he had a knee problem. Well, what happened? He got it fixed. Dr. Elatrash got microfracture, ACL, the whole thing. Well, the problem clearly is not fixed. And someone, I sarcastically tweeted out, I quoted like Mayoko's practice report, like, is his career over? Kind of sarcastically, but kind of like, is this it? Like, is he just an unable body? Like, if your wall is rotting because of water damage or whatever, and it's like the color changes. Well, if I just take paint and I paint over it, it might look okay, but actually the water damage isn't gone. Like, you can open this surgery and do it, but if he has a degenerate knee, there is no fixing it. So it's a fucking disaster. Like, you can't tell me. Sometimes guys get surgery. It happens in baseball, basketball, and football, right? And they come back, and then it's like, well, they came back a little too early. It's not quite fully healed. It swells up a little bit. Like, we just got to pull back. I would say that's not that crazy. That has happened in the history of our lives, back in the 90s when clearly surgeries weren't as good, to now when they have all this information. And then there's this. Like, this doesn't just feel like, well, it's a little sore. No, this feels like this thing is never going to work. Like, you have a tire that you keep patching and it keeps blowing out and it's never going to work. The problem is, in this case, like, you can't just get a new tire and replace it. Like, the tire, like, his knee's his knee. Like, what are you going to do? Get a knee replacement? Like, I'm viewing him as in no fault of his own. Like, to me, there's a bust level. Like, Solomon Thomas on the field, he's not good enough. This guy on the field, I'm not saying he was ever going to be Vita Vea or Buckner or that level of player. You got to play to prove that. But he was clearly a legitimate starter. Like, you could start him, right? His body type, his explosion. He can't get on the field because of this knee is that fucked up. And they're clearly being pretty mum about it. But, like, look at all the other players, right, that are clearly, he's got plantar fasciitis. You notice it was foot and ankle. Like, he's got some shit going on with this Armstead.
Yeah.
Bosa has an issue right now. We know exactly what it is. You just hope, like, it goes away. Mosley, torn ACL. Trent Williams, ankle sprain. Like, everything's concrete. And then there's
broken hand.
Then there's Javon Kinlaw. It's like, because you know what and I understand it. They don't want to go, we didn't fail them like some other teams did. Obviously, they know that, right? They're not dumb. They have friends on other teams. We took a chance, and it didn't work out. We've taken a chance on Reuben Foster. He let us down immediately. Maturity. We took a chance on Kinlaw from a medical standpoint, and I wouldn't go quite as far as disaster, but it's been a negative. You could go borderline disaster when you factor in how high you took him.
I think you could, and when you factor in, and again, I think it's
the red flag was known.
The red flag was known. He wasn't here to replace Buckner. No one was going to replace Buckner, but he was part of that solution. The reason, if you were going to counter argument disaster, is just, well, they missed at the position where they can most afford to miss because their defensive line coach creates defensive linemen like Frankenstein's left, right, and center.
I am taking out the other variables and just putting him in a vacuum.
When you draft a guy 14th, it's one thing if at the end of George Kittle's career, he's not a Hall of Fame player because he missed too many games. You're like, well, shit. No, it's just the way it is, unfortunately. But Kinlaw came in with that red flag, right? You wouldn't look back on Kittle's career and go, yeah, you guys drafted a hurt player and he got hurt a lot. Well, he plays a style that gets him hurt, but he himself did not come into the league with a red flag injury like Javon Kinlaw did. And they, with a very important pick, took that risk. And, you can say we'd take that risk again. I don't know, but this one has not worked out. He's played 102 snaps this year. 102 snaps this year. He is going to be fifth-year option eligible. Think about that. Let's just judge these first-round picks on fifth-year options. McGlinchey, yeah, but
more backed into a corner, didn't have a choice.
Solomon Thomas?
No.
And now Kinlaw, what are you going to do? Ayuk, you'll do Ayuk, same year. Ayuk. Now, here's the thing with Kinlaw.
Bosa? I guess his already got picked up.
The thing with Kinlaw is he's not going to be that expensive of a fifth-year option relative to what it can be because he's not going to be a Pro Bowler. He's not going to play the minimum number of snaps probably this year. So it's going to be the cheapest. I saw somebody suggest, I think it was 49erscap.com suggested it'll be like $8 or $9 million. But that's a lot. That's $8 or $9 million, a lot of money, right? It's just the cheapest of the fifth-year options.
Well, as of October 13th today, it's a hard no, right?
Yeah, you can't. If I think you do the same thing, is it? They picked up Armstead's option when they came in, right?
Yeah,
they picked up Armstead's option. To me, it's like the Daniel Jones. Like, hey man, we will try to keep you healthy year 4. We'd love for you to play year 4. If you're great, then great. We'll keep you around. But how can you commit yourself to potentially 2 more years of this?
Well, think about this. As of they wouldn't hesitate if they could right now pick up Ayuk's. Kyle would send it in the league right now, right? Just like a lot of players in his draft. Ayuk's worse. You could go to the group of guys. There was a ton in that first. Justin Jefferson, they would have picked it up like his 3rd game of his career. The Kinlaw thing is just an easy no, just based on under no circumstances can I pay someone $8 million and get 0 games potential. And that's what the potential is here. And I think about it all the time. Like, this is why I defended Mike McDaniel. Like, ultimately, the doctors in this sport more than any of them, because it's such a violent sport and because, like, there's a wear and tear. I guess it happens in baseball, too. Remember one of the dudes, it was Leiter and Rocker. Yeah, and the dude the Mets drafted, they claimed like degenerate elbow. We're not signing him, and they refused to sign him. It happens in football too. It's just it's before the draft. Like in baseball, sometimes they're like, you don't get the medicals till after. And then it's like, wait, you want me to give you $12 million? I got your MRI right here. I say no. In football, you get it immediately because they all have to go to the combine. But not every doctor has the same view. So if you and me are, if you're the coach and I'm the GM, and we're sitting there going over, and I vividly remember Howie and Andy, both years I worked in the office, like a couple weeks before the draft, they would meet with Jeffrey Lurie, and the doctors would come, and Rick Burkholder, who's still his trainer, they'd meet, and they would just go over the combine results of like, we're gonna recommend no on this, for whatever reason. What are you supposed to say, right? Now, I think sometimes, like when they tell you this degenerate knee, and you say, well, we love the guy, and they just give you the recommendation no. Clearly, sometimes they get overruled.
Not only we love the guy, John, it does feel like they were really drafting for specific position. And just looking at that draft, there's not another defensive tackle that gets drafted till 40, right? They took him at 14.
Who was at 40?
Hank Blacklock. Oh, no, Ross Blacklock. Texans took him.
Yeah, I don't watch much Texas football. So, to me, when you take
25 tackles,
when you take character guys, and the Niners had an experience of this year one, the fucking guy got into an altercation at the combine with a nurse, and he was already a walking, talking red flag coming out of Alabama, right? That was pretty insane looking back. The Raiders gave us multiple examples. Lynn Bowden was a huge red flag, and he didn't last till the end of training camp. Damon Arnett was a massive red flag coming out of Ohio State. All of them blew up. And I think most teams would tell you, fuck, we wouldn't have touched this guy. And sometimes it's not, when I say the team, I'm talking like the scout or a college director. The only guy making the decision is really the owner, the GM, and the coach. A lot of times the assistant coach, like, I don't want to mess with this guy. But character stuff, we've seen enough like bad character guys turn their life around. And sometimes bad character guys stay shitheads. So you're dealing with humans. You hope you can influence them. You never know. And some characters are a lot worse than others. To me, the medical stuff is just, it's tough, because I think if you don't take them, let's just say, okay, we're, our doctors, we'll pass them, but we're a little leery. And you're like, fuck it. We're not going to take the risk. And then he goes a couple picks later and he becomes a Pro Bowl and you're kicking yourself.
Yeah.
I guess that could happen with character guys too. I mean, it does all the time. Right? A character guy. I mean, Tyreek Hill's a good example. No one would touch him. Do you think if you do that over again, his career, he lasts till the 5th round?
No chance.
Well, does he go in the top 20?
Yeah. Does he go in the top 10? I mean,
yeah. I mean, he hit his girlfriend and got kicked out of college.
On video, right? There was video.
Well, Joe Mixon's probably a better example.
Maybe the Mixon is the video I'm thinking of.
Mixon's a better example because the video, and he was at ultimately Tyreek was, I think, transferred to like Alabama State, like Oklahoma State kicked him out of school. Like the Mixon, if you could redo the Mixon thing and how it's played out, and he's been clearly a pretty good guy, does he get drafted 50 spots? I think he went into second round. Does he end up going like pick 23?
Yeah.
Or whatever. He's clearly a
round.
really, really good player.
Yeah.
And the problem though is, there is no reduce, Of course, like a year in, it's like Danny Watkins is playing air guitar before the game and he doesn't even know the plays. Like, this is a fucking disaster. But you didn't know that at the time. When you're just
you did know he was 28 and a firefighter. Well, firefighter.
But you just watch, like, you just turn on the Baylor tape and he's making plays.
Yeah. And also, who's the guy that the Broncos drafted? He was older. From Utah, Garrett Bowles. He was an older player.
And he was not that good early on. He became a really good player.
Yeah.
Did he tear his ACL or something the other night?
Good question. I'd be lying if I could answer that question, but I did feel like something happened to him.
It's just what makes the draft. I have a red flag. Like you deserve criticism. AJ Jenkins is a good example. He was widely viewed as like a 3rd or 4th round pick. And then the draft process happened and he runs fast and he gets inflated. Like those picks, I'm cool with. Like you deserve the heat. The injury stuff and the character stuff, I just think so often they go one of two ways, and a lot of times they go good, and a lot of times they go shitty. You just never know. You're just kind of playing. You're just flipping the coin, and it looks like the Niners flipped the coin on this one when a lot of people would have just handed the coin to someone else. But over the history of the sport, people have flipped the coin, and it's worked out for them. Because if Javon Kinlaw was just playing 15, 16 games a year, they would 100% be fine with it, right? It would be going well. Clearly,
yeah.
I mean, all their D linemen are good. They made Arden Key into a player. It's like this guy makes guys into players, and he's too talented.
Well, that's why they took him, right? Same with Ruben. Like, they didn't take these chances on mediocre talents. They took them on potential superstar talents. Although the irony with Ruben is he also had a problem staying healthy. Like, he was a double whammy, right? Ruben Foster was a problem off the field. But
well,
even
yeah,
if
he had questionable
bad
shoulders.
He had bad shoulders. So it was kind of the same deal. Look, the famous Ron Wolf quote, you're gonna hit on 1 out of 3. That's pretty good in the draft. What is not debatable is they have hit on 1 out of 4 top 15 linemen in 4 straight drafts. And the Reuben Foster one, you go, okay, part of that, this was they were new first year. The Javon Kinlaw draft was a different type of red flag, but I just don't, there's no other way around it. I mean, this pick was.
Well, the way they've stayed good, let's
failed.
face it, they have hit so many after first round picks and late first round picks. If you and I were ownership, we would say, well, they waste a lot of money for us up top in the first round, but goddamn, they save us a lot of money in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds.
You would say that.
Because if Hufanga's a really good player for the next couple of years, he's one of the best values in the league, right? He's a $12 million player that we're paying $900,000.
Yeah, as you try to keep your window open and win championships, you need superstars. And those guys, by and large,
are high picks.
Yeah. Doesn't mean George Kittle's not a great pick. Of course he is. I mean, he's a fantastic pick. But there's no rule that says you have to miss on a first rounder if you hit on a 5th rounder.
Yeah, you can do both.
Like, the universe just insists on keeping itself in balance. Like, you're not allowed to do all of those things.
But that's part of the stats, right? If you're going to hit on 50, if you're going to have a great draft and hit on 60, 4 of those, if you have 10 picks, 4 of them are going to be just ugly.
Yeah.
And even 2 of your 6 hits are actually going to be like, oh, he's just a good special teamer and he's a good guard.
I think, to me, the real question is, why have you missed on 3 out of 4 top 15 D linemen? Is there a problem in scouting those players? Now, they would say, well, hold on. Kinlaw was not a talent miss. Kinlaw was a knee issue. The offensive lineman, McGlinchey over Colton Miller, maybe Kyle just preferred him. Maybe it was like, we know that Miller's going to take a year to develop. Because remember, year 1, it didn't look like Colton Miller was going to be better than McGlinchey.
I think
and we don't want to
remember he hurt his ankle. That was the knock. It was like, well, he's injured.
Who was Colton?
Colton hurt his ankle early, and that's.
And maybe it was like, hey, if he had not gone to Tom Cable, maybe he wouldn't have developed into this guy. Who knows? And then the Solomon Thomas one was.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. Of the 3 guys, you can put them into 2 different categories. McGlinchey and Solomon Thomas are safe, and as GM Haberman always says, there is no such thing as safe, and it's true. Like, there is no such thing as a high floor guy. Because if it was a high floor guy, no one would ever miss on draft picks, right?
You just always take the high floor guys, and you just have a really, really good team.
You just have like the 2014 Patriots. Every guy would just be fucking Logan Mankins on your squad. That's not how it works. And the high ceiling guys miss all the time too. So like the likelihood that a guy might be some Pro Bowler or just as high floor, be like a 7-year starter, both those guys could miss, and you're just whiffing, right? And that's. If you had to rank them, you would go McGlinchey, Kinlaw. I'd put Solomon last, even though he did play. It's just like he's just not very good.
Rank him how?
Well, just like of the picks.
Oh, how good. Yeah, I mean, look, McGlinchey's kind of, to me, if it wasn't for Colton Miller getting drafted the spot after him with the tails or the heads or whichever it was on the coin,
I was there.
A little different. You were there.
Gruden stormed off. Remember?
Not want to be there. Was Rod Woodson the guy that like did the flip or something like that?
Rod flipped it, and then John Lynch high-fived him.
Yeah, I mean, McGlinchey has been a starter on 2 NFC Championship teams, right? Or did he play in the? Well,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, he was. Where'd you say PFF had him? No, he did. He did not play at the end of that. He was out.
PFF this year has McGlinchey ranked 44th among tackles who have played at least 50% of their team snaps. And they have Colton Miller 11th.
Yeah.
As that's actually pass block grades. If you want overall grades,
I think he's
Miller
a
is
decent run
22nd and McGlinchey is 23rd. Oh, yeah. So overall, there you go. So the run block, again, that's where I agree. Some people in the comments have said it's not fair to put McGlinchey in the Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas category. I think that's true. He is a different, like if you told me he's just back at right tackle next year for the 49ers, I'd say okay, and that might actually be fine, depending on what the rest of their offensive line looks like, right?
And it might be when
Do you
you
agree with
factor
that?
in
Like,
all the variables, like where do you find one, right?
so if he ends up starting at right tackle for them for like 9 years, you'd go, well, can you really complain about that pick? That would be a fair point. You can only draft the players available. And if one of them plays 9 years, that would be fine.
So he'd be the right tackle version of Derek. Like, wait, Derek just started for 17 years for the Raiders. And they made the playoffs 2 times. How's this possible?
The difference is at tackle, there's 4 other guys on that line, plus a tight end, plus a running back that can help. A quarterback, there's just you.
I was going to say you get paid to pass block in the NFL, which you do. It's why Trent Williams is so valuable. Kyle would be like, well, we kind of pay for half.
Yeah, you're there to just help Debo up after 6 yards.
Run the ball.
Oh, real quick, by the way, I've gotten a couple good messages on these on the melon hats, John. MELIN.com/ham, 20% off. I just bought another one in blue. But Nick hit me up. He said he's happy because they have sizes that are big enough because he has a big head and they have like the larger hat sizes. And then I got another DM from Tyler that said his hat came with like the bill was a little bent in a funny spot. And he just DM'd me to say that he had he's just reached out to Melon, MELIN.com/ham. And he said they replaced it. They were super easy. They sent him a new hat. No questions asked. No problems. Loves it. So there you go. Just a little bonus Melon ad right there.
My free hats somehow got lost in transit. I need to order some. I do have one here, but
I just got this one in navy. So I'm excited to see that. Alyssa, the other thing you could get, Alyssa got a beanie.
What kind is that? The Hydro?
Yeah, it's the Hydro, yeah. In the classic size.
And it fits. You got a big head too, don't you?
I think regular. I don't think big.
Problem is I've already ordered, so I can't even use. Are we promo code ham or is it /ham?
/ham. Use a different email.
I've done it before.
So
my mom's like, why are you ordering so many cheeseburgers and hats?
Cheeseburgers?
From Butcher Box.
Oh. Don't ask me questions. Just, sign for the delivery. Anyway, I just want to mention that because I've been getting a few DMs.
The navy blue is a good color.
Yeah, that's why I got it. Get that one. You had the black one, didn't you? Did you have this one in black?
Yeah, I had the Phil one.
But the Phil one was was like a rounder. Maybe it was Hunter Bishop that had this one in black. He had this one in black.
Odyssey stacked Hydro. The gray one actually looks pretty good too.
Kind of like a heather gray, that one.
Yeah.
Stacked. Stand by. John, what is the latest?
Davante's in the clink.
You knew that's where I was going. Davante Adams has been charged.
What did you see Schefter? He's like, Schefter the next day was like another angle. It's like, Adam, I mean, leave the guy alone. I mean, listen, is it a regrettable decision? Yes. Is it that big a deal? No. I thought Stephen A had a good line. He's like, sometimes when you get shoved down, you don't sue the other person. You just get back up. Just get up.
You might have a little whiplash, John.
Would he have shoved Randy Johnson if it had been Randy crossing? Or would you think he stopped immediately? Randy would have been pretty tall. You see that picture going viral, Randy?
No.
Well, people are like, did you know that Randy Johnson is a photographer, does NFL games? I think it's here. He goes to
Randy
Glendale.
Johnson. Yeah. I've seen that before, that Randy was...
It might be an old pick from like a Super Bowl, but people, came back up with Davante. Like, what do you shove this guy? It's Randy.
I got to stop the music. Corey on the stream says, yo, I gave a super chat. Stop yelling at us. Corey says it's complicated, but you've got to let him go. Speaking of Garoppolo, an outrageous waste of draft capital for a guy who's averaging 1 TD a game. Niners are near the bottom in scoring. Wasted Lance's rookie contract. Also, Jimmy will want out. It's complicated, but you've got to let him go. So he's saying it's an outrageous waste of draft capital to keep Jimmy around, particularly because Jimmy's averaging 1 touchdown a game. Niners are near the bottom in scoring. And the other part of this is, remember last year played out. It played out. We watched it and went, okay, you need to be more explosive in the pass game. Even if you have a bunch of success without being explosive in your passing game, that's not a thing you want to be year after year after year. You'd have to view it as a little bit more as of an aberration than a formula you can really consistently stick with. But at the same time, let's say they go back to the NFC Championship game. Kyle's not going to be quick to part with that.
No, he won't. Let me see the front of your hat. Does it say M or is it blank? Okay, yeah. And that's the classic?
This is the Hydro classic size. Yeah. Odyssey Hydro.
Yep. Odyssey stacked Hydro.
I don't know if Corey got his $20 worth. Middlekauff's ordering as we're doing the show today. But he's ordering with code ham, so /ham.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is I did, like last year, I bought 3 of the Nike TW hats just because I can't, the majority of like the 20 hats I own are trucker hat style. Well, you can't play golf in trucker hats when you're bald. You burn your head. So the Tiger Woods hat just protect my head. So I got a black, I got a navy blue, and I got a white. And then I can rotate them with basically every outfit I have playing golf. And my head is protected. Well, if I have those 3, then I basically have 6 hats that cover my head that I can keep on rotation with every outfit. Because the thing with Tiger Woods, like not all my golf outfits are Nike. And I don't like cross-pollinating. So if I'm, if I got like an Adidas shirt with like Under Armour shorts and then I got a Nike hat, not that I care that much, but I like to kind of keep consistent.
Stay fresh, look good, play good.
The Melon, excuse me, you can rock with like, I can do the different shirt, different shorts, and it's cool, right?
Right.
Gives you, I like having options.
Raiders 1-4 headed into their bye week. John, will Davante Adams get suspended? I said that to you before the show, and you said, how can you possibly suspend him for that? I agree with you. I don't think it's anything close to a suspendable offense. However, it is the Raiders, and the league has it out for them, as many people believe. I'm not saying that as fact. I'm just saying if he was on the Packers, would that change the dynamic? Maybe a little. The video went around today of him knocking a guy down, helping him up, and putting his beanie back on his head when he was a Packer. That was pretty funny. He leads the league in touchdowns.
I did not.
Davante Adams is tied for the league lead with Stephon Diggs with touchdowns. So they're all in on him. The question is Josh McDaniels going to be all in on Derek Carr, whose contract dead cap in 2023 is how much?
A little over $5 million.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible. That's an unusual quarterback contract.
I would say it's been his career. He's clearly a solid player. But I think the argument has gone back and forth, and he's as polarizing as Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott. And both those guys does Dak have a playoff win? I'm not sure Dak does. Kirk Cousins, does he have a playoff victory?
Yeah, he does.
He beat the Saints. So, like, Derek just does not have a playoff victory. So he's going on. Do you know what's pretty crazy? Dennis Allen, Tony Soprano, RIP. He was an interim, so even if I don't count him, Dennis Allen, Jack Del Rio, John Gruden, and now Josh McDaniels, guys that are going to be head coaches, right? Jack 3 years, John several years, and Josh, unless something crazy happens, at minimum is going to be 3 or 4 years. It's pretty rare you get a consistent Pro Bowl top 10 quarterback just lasting coach after coach, right? It does feel that if you don't make the playoffs, like how long are like the DBs, the special teams coverage, like usually the guy that gets blamed is the coach and the quarterback, and they've been running through some coaches. So I'm not saying they can upgrade. I'm not saying Derek's not good, but it's getting to the point where he's going to start needing to do some shit. Like that play that he threw against Davante, like they're going to need a lot more of that. And now they're really going to need it because they're in a hole. Like even when we hopped on, like they're on a bye week this week. So they're going to be a little out of sight, out of mind. And next week they're going to come back and they're playing the Texans, who I think for all intents and purposes are, are going to be one of the worst teams in the league record-wise. But like if you peak up a lot every week, like if you tell me that's a tie game in the third quarter, it's believable, right? They have been a pretty competitive, feisty fucking squad.
Yeah.
Like I don't just the Raiders.
Raiders
by no
have
means,
a lot of experience in close games, John. 5-point loss to the Chargers, 6-point loss to the Cardinals, 2-point loss to the Titans, 1-point loss to the Chiefs.
They have
Is
no
that
margin
good
for
or
error.
bad?
Do you agree? Like,
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're better than a 1-4 team.
when I say margin for error, though, that you can't just like they can't afford to like split their next 2 games coming off the bye. They're going to have to go on a little bit of a winning streak.
Yeah. I thought you meant like with their style of play. No,
No. I think their play's fine, but eventually you got to have more points than your opponent at the end of the game. You know.
Somebody reminded me. You remember when Corey Hall? Remember what was the guy's name? Gary Anderson. Was that the guy that quit at Oregon State?
Yeah. Didn't he quit at Wisconsin too? He took off. Remember?
Yeah. And, or was it Utah State?
He quit there too, maybe.
Corey
Weird ending
Hall,
to his career.
Remember Corey Hall? Remember that guy took over? He was like a Fresno State Bulldog. And he was
Yeah.
Somebody reminded me the other day, they were like, in his first game, they lost. And in the locker room after the game with like the AD standing right there, like part of his deal was like he was campaigning for the job. He was like, I don't care what the scoreboard says. We won today. It's like, no, you lost today. You lost today. You lost today. The scoreboard said you lost. You lost. Now they do play the Raiders, the Texans, the Saints, the Jags, the Colts, the Broncos, the Seahawks coming up. Right? Like they do have this thing set up, but there will be no excuse. There will be none of that. They're better than their record if they don't run. I mean, really, John, shouldn't they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games? Texans, Saints, Jags, Colts, Broncos, Seahawks. I mean, they got to go 5-1 in this stretch here.
Yeah.
1-4, that puts them at 9-5. 1-4. What am I thinking? That puts them at 5-5.
If they go 5-1
or 6-5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can add 6 games. Go 4-2. That puts you at 5-6. So that's not good enough. So you got to go 5-1 in that stretch.
But
right?
to me, 4-2, at least you're alive. Like 5-6, you're alive. But
Chargers, Rams, Pats, Steelers, Niners, Chiefs.
Yeah, this is my point. When you start 1-4, you eventually have to go on a 4-game winning streak to get above 500. And then even once you do that, okay, then you lose a game, then you're back at 500. And then that next game is fucking huge. They're very behind the 8 ball. And I just don't see how anyone gets blamed but Derek. Like Davante ain't getting blamed. Like you said, already obviously the shove, he's been in the news, but he's on pace for like 17 touchdowns.
Davante, you've been in the news.
What does that even mean anymore? Because like I don't know anyone that watches the news.
We
don't read newspapers. It just means like, yeah, I saw some headlines on Twitter and TMZ.
Yeah, I like that. It's better than saying like Davante, you've been trending lately. Negative reasons.
Well, it's like, did you see Aikman apologize for like wearing skirts or dresses? Who's he? Because when I saw the headline of like Troy Aikman under fire, so I typed it in Twitter. It was 7 people, I think, was the number I counted of people freaking out. So is he apologizing to those 7 people?
Or, so did you see his quote? He went on like a local radio show I think in Dallas, maybe some guys he's on with.
Oh, that's where he said it. He didn't leave like a ESPN statement. Okay, that makes sense.
I read his quote, and honestly, when I read his quote, I was like, I think he kind of felt bad. Like, maybe he has a daughter. I don't know. Like, not like bad, but his quote was pretty straight to the point. He's just like, I wish I hadn't have said that. It was dumb. It wasn't like some bullshit thing. I think he just was like, yeah, I can understand. I'm trying to say that again. Like, it was just pretty straightforward. Like, I thought I didn't hear it. Hearing it's different than saying it. But I think it was like, I don't think that Troy was responding to whoever said they were offended so much as someone's like, Troy, there's, you probably shouldn't say that. And Troy was like, yeah, okay, I can see that. It seemed pretty low drama to me when I read his quotes.
Okay, makes sense.
That was when I read his quotes. I thought, I don't think Troy got pressured into it. I think Troy actually feels, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think less of it than if I thought just assumed that he released a statement. I didn't know that he just
it was just a normal interview. Maybe he even told the guys like, hey, let me talk about this. Let me say something.
Gotcha.
But he was minorly in the news. I would say Davante is very in the news.
Agreed.
Davante's like, how did this happen to me?
I know.
I'm not that guy.
And I think part of it is like Raider fans are going to get mad at this, but this guy's resume was pretty spotless, right? With the Green Bay Packers as a person. I mean, he was known for like taking pictures around town, like buying people breakfast. But is this even
a spot on his resume?
No, I know, but it's like he comes to the Raiders and a guy's laying on the ground and he's getting charged. I mean, you can say that all you want. He's getting charged. He comes to the Raiders, spotless resume. If anyone's like, God, Rodgers a little kooky, but they got Davante. He's like really stabilizing the place. Comes to the Raiders 6 games in, he's getting charged with assault, leaving a devastating loss on Monday Night Football. Like that happened. I mean, it can't be argued that something about the Raiders. I don't know what it is.
I'll tell you, I mean, historically, they're a dysfunctional organization. And Derek hasn't changed that. Josh McDaniels hasn't changed that. Nobody has been able to change the fact yet that they're a dysfunctional organization, right? And I know that's I'm not trying to be, sometimes we have some fun and get dramatic and whatever, but I mean, that is what the recent history is. Think about how they lost their last coach. Because the league was going after Dan Snyder and some emails came out. Like somehow John Gruden got caught in that hole. I mean, think about how they lost their
last guy. He was the story of the.
I mean, they didn't start with him. Somehow they ended up on him. That's how they lost their last coach.
Because the Redskins were under investigation.
Yeah, because Del Rio's team was in trouble. It's just crazy. And like, if we go through every team has had insane stuff happen. It's just the nature of this. It's just the nature of it. It's
Raiders have had more, I think, than a lot of teams.
But they've had a lot. Yeah, they have had more than their fair share.
An owner who literally everyone hates. They did an investigation, and the thing that came out of it was the Raiders coach was fired on Monday Night Football. Reported halftime. By the end of the game, he was resigned. Like that happened. I would say the Gruden, that moment was an underrated, one of the craziest things happened in the NFL history. In like my life of just following, like, no one dying or, just what? Huh? And it's over. Just like that. That was nuts. And part of it was like the guy had $100 million. It was like a historic number. Remember, like Mark Davis stepped up to the plate, gave him $100 million. He didn't even have $30 million in the bank.
Well, yeah, part of it is like if I said to you, somebody has a 10-year contract, they lose their job like not even 3.5 years in, right? It was like
he didn't even make a day games in the his 4th year.
So give me all the ways that could happen. Be like, well, Mark's not going to fire him for poor performance. He likes him too much. He's not going to fire him after 3.5 years. What's going to happen?
Yeah, like a terrible DUI where someone gets killed. Nothing like that, like hit his wife.
But I mean, it's not going to be, if I say it's not on field performance, then what would it like? Now you got to start going into some weird scenarios, right?
Yes.
Falling out with the quarterback who's clearly great. The quarterback says, get rid of this guy, or I'm, holding out or something. Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, he thought someone was breaking into his house. Turns out the guy was just turning off his water and he shot him.
Yeah. I mean, you start. They investigate Dan Snyder.
You laugh, but I'm just making things up. Like eventually something like this could happen in the NFL. Like, hey, assistant coach drives through Taco Bell naked. You're like, what? Like, actually, it happened like 2 years ago. It's like you can just create these scenarios, and it's like.
So Jameis Winston, there's a college football player. He gets in trouble in college for a couple of different things. Can you name those things?
Yeah. So it's like
no.
The crazy part is a lot of the times, though, it's hard to actually get to what the reason was, and that reason's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Right? He was just shooting all these emails. What was he saying? Who's he emailing?
He's just on threads with Bruce Allen. So.
Wait, like John Gruden actually shoots that many emails?
I think the one thing that Mark has going for him in terms of maintaining control of the team, because some people attached to the thing you said the other day when you said if in 10 years somebody else owns the team, should they change the name based on something I've said for a few years that I do think you would consider it if you're a new owner. But the league's going to be preoccupied with Dan Snyder for a while. The big ESPN article today, we always like to guess the source guess. Now, this thing had like 30 sources or maybe more. I think it was 30 plus sources quoted in this story. But which side wanted this Dan Snyder story out more? My first reaction was, well, Dan Snyder wants it out. He wants the league to know you guys don't try and Robert Sarver this team for me because I've got dirt on all of you and it's not going to be pretty. But
Did you read it?
Well, I mean,
like how far down even
I have followed the reaction. I've heard some of the bits and pieces, but I did not read the article.
Oh, you didn't click on the article.
Click, but so maybe I'm not the best person to give a perspective on it, but I've seen a good number. I've read a lot of the here's a synopsis of some of the things in it.
Yeah.
That's what I've focused on. And to me, they seem like things that Dan Snyder, if he's going to war, like burn the boats, no turning back, he would want out there that you guys just know. Like,
Well, I think there's an owners meeting in a couple weeks, so maybe he wanted this out there. So, like, are you guys going to vote me out in 2 weeks? Is that vote going down? And it was reported today that the vote is not taking place. So maybe it was like, hey, motherfuckers, if you even are thinking about putting this thing on the docket, just know, even if I'm lying, don't have dirt on 31 of you. I got dirt at minimum on 5 or 6 of you, and I'm not afraid to sink some of you. You too, Raj.
Did you read it? Oh yeah, he mentioned Roger. Did you?
No,
read it
I started skimming. I realized it was going to be too long, and they hit some of the hits off the top of the NFL is like a mafia. Jerry Jones dumped. He doesn't support him anymore, and he has
Jerry was Dan's mentor and is no longer
one of his big supporters. Yeah, and one of the things is he has PIs following all these people. Which at first you'd say that's pretty nuts, and you go, who knows? Like, I don't think it's possible. Because if you're him and you are afraid to get booted, you would start taking some pretty crazy measures, especially when he followed his career. He's pretty nuts, right?
Also, they've been digging through your emails. I mean, you do some counterintelligence, right?
Yeah, that is true. He's been under investigation. I mean, literally by like the America. Didn't he have to go speak in front of the
Oh, that's right. It was
the
a
committee.
federal investigation.
Now, in fairness, like anyone who's clicked on one of those, it's not like the committee. I don't hold the committee in some fucking high regard if you've watched enough of those, you're like, this is so stupid. These people screaming.
Well, he didn't
at
even
each other.
show up, I don't think.
No, I think he eventually had to.
Oh, he did.
Remember?
Because
at first it was like, I'm out of town. It's like, where is he? He's like, you're hanging on your yacht.
My schedule is unknown. I can't fit you guys in. Yeah.
It goes, let's just assume everyone hates him. Because I saw someone quoted today was like, Dan's super paranoid. It's not that overblown. The league is not actually the mafia. Because one of his things was like every owner actually hates every other owner. And I think someone was like an unnamed source was like, actually, that's not true. They just all hate Dan.
Mm.
And I wonder if like the majority of them, some of them deal with them probably much closer than others. Some of them probably just think like, I don't even want to deal with this. Like I would hate someone that I was in business with, even if I didn't like, we just were profiting together, but we didn't interact that often. But if you started being a pain to my business, I would start turning on you.
Yeah, well, he's bad for the brand, for the shield, right? It's always about protect the shield. So you're always answering questions for that purpose. Who knows how many internal emails or whatever there is. As you're dealing with Dan, and heat on Dan brings more eyeballs on you as you're trying to be, kind of just we got the concussion thing dialed in. Let's just can we just stay out of can the federal government stay out of everybody's? They're investigating Kraft. It's just you just don't want to deal with this stuff at all.
No,
at all. You don't want the emails. You don't want the calls. You don't want the questions. And you don't want the attention. You don't want the negative attention on your business. It's a very small business, honestly, in terms of the number of people in charge.
Pretty smart move to go. I swear to God, if you guys kick me out, I'm prepared to take anyone down that I can. And I have dirt. Because if I was in that situation, I'd be like, well, maybe we shouldn't.
That's where you go be rabbit if you're Jerry Jones.
Wouldn't you agree?
I know everything this guy's about to say against me. Yes, Cheddar Bob did shoot himself in the leg.
But here's the problem.
And yes, I do live at home with my mom.
In 2022, we have seen in the last half decade people get booted in different sports. I don't think you take that risk.
No, and the stuff it's not I live at home with my mom. That's not what Dan Snyder has against you.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, I've been cheating on my wife for 60 years. If that's it, like, yeah, but is it something else?
Already, but
yeah.
One thing Michael Lombardi said is, there is no way he's going to get a new stadium built because the other owners are not going to help him. They're not going to support him. And they need a new stadium.
Well, I've been there once. It's terrible, yeah. And that was a long time ago.
They play Thursday night. If you're listening to this, you already know what happened. John, bad news. Do you know the Monday night game this week?
Chargers Broncos.
That's right. The Broncos will not. They refuse to go away from the national scene.
That game, though, blows this game out of the water. Would you agree?
We'll see, but yes.
But it's just Russell's a pretty good drama.
Well, that's the Chargers. It's going to be a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. That's a stone cold loss.
But I think the Broncos, even being shitty, are a good reality television show.
That is true. That is true. Morning games. Ravens Giants doesn't sound good, but Giants are 4-1. Bengals Saints doesn't sound good. And
You don't need to sell us. We're good.
I'm not selling you. I'm not selling you.
Pee time.
Huh?
I've been holding it for so
Oh,
long.
pee time. I had one more thing to tell you, and then you can go pee.
Yeah.
This is the second time in college football history this Saturday that there are 3 games featuring 2 teams that are 5-0 or better. Tennessee, Alabama, top 10 matchup. Penn State, Michigan, top 10 matchup. All 4 of those teams are unbeaten, 5-0 or better. Oklahoma State, TCU, also both those teams are 5-0 and better. This is the second time in college football history we've had 3 of those games on the same day. Plus, you got USC, Utah on Saturday.
Okay, I'm going Harbaugh. I'm going upset.
Michigan.
I'm going Heupel in the upset.
Okay, Tennessee.
And I'm going Mike Gundy. Oklahoma State's good. I've watched them a couple times. Like they're good, bro.
Well, TCU really could have lost to Kansas last week.
Didn't Kansas' quarterback get knocked out in that game?
Jalen Daniels got hurt, yeah. But the guy that came in, Jason Bean, played really well.
Don't sleep on Lightpole.
Lightpole?
Lightpole? What's his coach's name?
He's got the waist of a light pole though. He's in good shape. Tennessee is a 7-point underdog. Do you know what that game opened at? 14.5.
I saw Will Anderson said we're still the standard.
Okay,
that's a pretty good line.
I think Tennessee's history, as long as I've known Tennessee, John, is to build it up only to watch it crumble. So I'm going to take Alabama this week.
Don't sleep on Heupel, bro.
I know. I just for fun, because you took Tennessee, I'll take Alabama.
Did you read the Athletic article? I'll end on this. The Athletic article on Josh Heupel?
I saw it. I did not read it.
He transferred into Bob Stoops' program, Stoops' first year. They went 7-5. And Oklahoma had been really shitty, right? Stoops takes over a bad Oklahoma team in 98, 99. Junior college transfer, Josh Heupel, they go 7-5. That offseason workouts, the spring, he's looking around the team like giving them a plan how we're going to win the national championship. And players on the team were like, Josh, bro, let's just try to win like 9 games, man.
Wow.
He was dead serious. They won the national championship. The point of the article was like, he's a serious cat. Like this guy is not, he's been like this when he was a 21-year-old JC kid.
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty fucking good coach, man.
I agree. I'm not denying that. I think you can feel like, this idea that like the league needs the football team or the league needs the Raiders. Like Tennessee is that. Like here's legend on here says Tennessee wins. I got a DM like 10 minutes ago. Pedro, longtime listener, moved to Knoxville 3 months ago for grad school. Team's looking great. However, do you think they look good enough to beat Alabama? Like I think when Tennessee is good, it is a huge deal for college football. Like we say that in the NFL, I think it matters less for some of these NFL teams that aren't good right now. But in college, just because you're talking about 105,000 people, right? It's just the environment is incredible. So I'm rooting for Tennessee. I'll tell you that. I am rooting for Tennessee.
Rocky Top.
All right. Later, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us. Have a great weekend.